Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? All right, week 18. Mike's been doing this with us since August. It's been a lot of Thursdays. Mike, it might be our last one, man. How are you?
Might be the last one, but stranger things have happened, right?
That is true. I'll probably bother you next week anyway to do a post-mortem, even if they don't make the playoffs.
Sure.
All right, so they've won 3 out of 4, man. Are they actually getting better, or is it just they've played a lot of crappy teams?
It's probably more the latter, based on how bad that Rams game lost. I mean, 3 out of 4 would sound a lot better if they didn't play their worst game of the season in the fourth, against probably the best team they played all season. I mean, it really felt like getting exposed and outclassed in that game. So that makes you temper your enthusiasm. I mean, all along, though, like even my highest pre-season expectations for this team were predicting them to go 10-7 to win the NFC South. So I think if they could beat Tampa in the fashion they did and back that up by beating Atlanta in fairly convincing fashion, winning both of those rematches, then they'd be close to realizing their potential, which was, still not a special potential, but they're supposed to be the best team in this division. So that's still in play. But predicting consistency, predicting that, because they won last week, they're going to look good again the next week, we haven't seen that from this team in years.
To your point, they had the worst game of the season against the Rams, came back and I would say played their best game of the season against the Bucs. But that's the definition of an inconsistent team. Was that their best game against Tampa?
Yeah, and the previous best, I think, was the Giants right before they went out to Los Angeles. So I think they've played their 2 best games over the last 3 weeks. I think you can genuinely say their offense has made, small but significant improvements in the second half of the year. I mean, they looked like a disaster early on, especially the offensive line. I think Derek Carr's played his best football, third downs, red zone, like a lot of things we talked about have gotten better. I think if the second half of this season team was the first half of the season, I don't think there would have been the, the hatred and revolt reaction, at least. Not great, but, respectable.
You brought up the offensive line, and I shared this earlier in the week, and this surprised me because I think we'd all agree the offensive line has not been great this year. But they're actually second in the NFL in fewest sacks allowed. Only the Niners, with 31, have allowed fewer sacks than the Saints, 32. Are they better than we're giving them credit for?
To be honest, that's kind of a surprising statistic when you consider how many they piled up early in the year. I still don't like their run blocking. I hate it when they try to run the ball on 1st and 10 with the running back and they don't get anywhere and it puts them behind. I think that's been kind of a continued weakness all year long. But it's definitely the most their pass protection is definitely the most improved unit on this team, I'd say, in the second half of the season. So if the end results, say that, I just think we'd look a lot differently at them if they had started out playing this way instead of, taking so long to get.
Mike Triplett is with us. He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. neworleans.football. Chats every week are brought to you by Benny's Car Wash. Mike, I'm split a little between wanting to talk about this game Sunday and the future, because I think the future is what everybody's probably more interested in right now. But the last time these two teams played, that was that sort of infamous game where the Saints put up 400 yards but were 0-5 in the red zone, and Ritter threw 2 interceptions, and it was absurd that they didn't win this game. Saints should win Sunday in the Dome, right? Are you?
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay.
I think that I'd call it a 50-50 coin flip toss-up, honestly, because I do think the Saints will do a better job of scoring points. I think that was a little fluky how bad they were in the red zone. I think their offense has, gotten a little better. I trust them to be able to score points, but I have no evidence that they're going to be any better at stopping Atlanta's run game. And Atlanta has one of the better run games in the league, and they also have one of the most stubborn run games in the league. So they're going to continue to run from first quarter through fourth quarter. And and we've seen no evidence that the Saints have an answer for it. I think that was probably one of the lowest points of the entire season when their season was on the line when they played each other just 6 weeks ago. They were coming off a bye. They had to finish strong. They knew Atlanta was going to run against them, and they couldn't stop it. So I'll believe it when I see it if they can stop it.
Yeah. It's just, we've talked about it all year. It's the nature of an inconsistent team. There's no reason to believe any given week that you can expect to see what you might see from that team, which, of course, is a reflection of the coaching staff. Mike, I know this has been a big question all year long with Dennis Allen, if he's going to be back. It certainly seems like they're leaning toward.
I think you can feel pretty good about it. I mean, I think it would have taken losing the last 3 to change that, and having their best win of the season, I think, really cemented it.
So why? Why is this organization convinced that Dennis Allen can get them where they want to go?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say convinced, but I mean, it's harder to fire somebody than I think most people appreciate in the media, in the fan base. Nick made the point where he's like, it's easy to fire someone on Twitter. It's hard to do it in real life. I mean, you get fired from a job, you really failed. I mean, this team could go 9-8. I agree it's not good enough, and I agree the expectation should be higher, the standard should be higher. But fired is like getting an F. I mean, it's not an F season, and they don't put all the blame on Dennis Allen. So it's really hard for them to be like, you failed so badly that you're never going to coach again in this league, and we're firing you after 2 years. It doesn't happen around the league often. And on top of that, the Saints firmly believe that the teams that are firing their coach every 1 or 2 years are the teams that, aren't having success. They're not looking at Carolina and saying, see, there's a team that's got it figured out. So I think he had to fail pretty spectacularly to lose his job in 2 years. That doesn't mean that I'm saying he's done a great job and people don't recognize it. Not at all. But, they're just not laying this all at the feet of him. Because they also recognize the draft failures and the injury failures that have led to it. So they're not pinning it all on him. But, I do know that, unfortunately, that's going to be hard to sell next year because we're not going to look at this team next year and be like, well, this team's going to be way better. They're going to be older, and they're going to have the same coach and the same quarter.
Who does the organization lay the draft failures at the feet of then?
Well, I mean, I think it's a total picture. I mean, first of all, in the big picture, they're a team that lost Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and then they've dropped off after losing Sean Payton and Drew Brees. That was expected, but I mean, I think the replenishing the talent pool has been a big problem. Obviously, they have the salary cap constraints, so they can't just go out and buy new players in free agency. I don't think they've had a really productive draft since 2017. A couple guys here and there, Paul Smith-Debo, Pete Werner, Chris Olave, but the first round picks that haven't panned out. I mean, there's holes on the roster, and the offense is obviously early in the season was a bigger disappointment than the defense. The defense started having some warts later in the year, so I just don't think they see it as Dennis Allen is the fall guy. Unfortunately, I don't think they also, I don't think they can look at it and be like, this guy's got all the answers and he's going to get us back to the promised land next year. I don't know how you could have that opinion.
Is Pete Carmichael the fall guy? Probably all questions I should ask you next week.
I think there's a great chance. I mean, now that is an improved unit, as we talked about. I mean, you just mentioned the sack totals. They got better at that. They got better in the red zone. They got better on third down. Derek Carr's gotten better. They started scoring more points. So he's shown improvement. But, I mean, that's where you have to sell the hope. And look, if there was a way for Pete Carmichael to be part of it, maybe they show him the respect to have a job for him. But I think this was the year where it was like, all right, you need to show that it can look radically different. And it's an offense that needs to look radically different, I think. I'd be very surprised if we don't see major changes on that side of the coaching staff.
Does fan sentiment matter to the organization, Mike? I mean, I think you understand what I'm saying, but just to clarify, I think we all like to think our voice matters and we're heard collectively, but will the organization be moved? Mrs. Benson, Mickey Loomis, Dennis Lausch, who's ever making these decisions, will they be moved by fan sentiment?
I mean, I think that's impossible to ignore. I mean, when you saw the empty seats the Lions fans in the Dome, the empty seats the next week against Carolina. I think that's legitimate. I mean, you have to worry about selling tickets. I know a lot of people who, just through apathy, not even anger, are just like, yeah, I'm just not into this team anymore. I'm getting rid of my season ticket. That has to matter at some point. But fan emotion, they try to take fan level emotion out of their decisions because fans were ready to fire Dennis Allen 4 weeks into last season. They still could win this division and go to the playoffs, but certainly any one more win along the way, they were going to win this division and go to the playoffs. Yep. So they don't want to be the reactionary, we've lost 3 in a row, fire everybody. That's not how they're ever going to operate. And they're not going to let emotional fans who feel that way sway them. But, yeah, if this product continues to, make the fan apathy grow and grow, of course that makes a difference.
Okay. What scenario is more likely on Sunday? The Saints winning and Tampa losing, or the Saints winning, Green Bay, Seattle losing and getting a wild card?
I would say probably the first one, just because all of those games to me are 60-40, 55-45, 50-50, whatever you want to call them. But I'll still take the path where you only need 2 things to happen as opposed to the path where you need 3 things to happen.
Yeah.
But obviously, out of all those games, I mean, I definitely think Chicago has a decent chance of beating Green Bay, and Arizona has a decent chance of beating Seattle, probably more so than I feel Carolina has a chance of beating Tampa Bay. But that Tampa Bay team we just saw 4 days ago didn't look like a world beater.
Yeah, that line's 4.5. The Tampa Carolina line for his inept.
Well, I'll tell you the one. We're talking gambling here, the gambling section. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. Somebody told me that the odds of Atlanta winning the division are 6.5 to 1. That seems crazy to me. Like, I think Atlanta could definitely win this game. Like, I'm surprised it's that high. Like, those 2 results could absolutely happen. I mean, this is the NFC South we're talking about.
It's a division that nobody seems to want to win. And Mike, let me say it like, I know we talked about it back in week 3, but you led 17-0 in the fourth quarter against Green Bay and lost that game.
That's the one. That's the one that they're always going to. I mean, I knew it that day. I was like, no matter what happens this season, it will make a difference. It'll make a difference in seeding or whether they get in or not. And sure enough, that's the one you'd love to replay, huh?
Week 18, Saints and the Dirty Birds from the Dome. Mike Triplett will have it covered over at neworleans.football. Make sure you get to neworleans.football on our chats all season long. Brought to you by Benny's Car Wash. Make sure you join Benny's Unlimited Club. I did 2 years ago when Mike and I started doing this, and it's awesome. You just drive right on through. You have the sticker on your car. The arm goes up. You drive through and get your car washed. Benny's Unlimited. Join the wash club. Benny'sCarWash.com. Benny'sCarWash.com. All right, man. We appreciate it. Either way, we'll talk next week. Either celebrating a playoff appearance or commiserating and doing the postmortem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.